Today was a very exciting day for crypto. We've seen the majority of cryptocurrencies in the market go up by margins of like 10%. A couple of coins like QNT were up even 15% throughout today. But I know you guys love to hear it. XRP was up 10%. Now, if you're wondering what's going on, we really can't dedicate it to any one specific piece of news that is non-TradFi related. I'd like to state that everything here had to do with the inflation numbers in the US coming out, where Bitcoin then made such a heavy dip that massive amounts of buying power and buying pressure came back in, which caused everything to go ahead and surge. Of course, a couple of altcoins did better than others, one of those being XRP, one of those being QNT, and right now slowly things are leveling back down. Taking a look at it, right now the crypto market is indeed not that much on the upside anymore. Bitcoin has already gone down from, I believe, 19.6 thousand all the way towards 19.3. XRP again does not look to be plus 10%, but only plus 3%. And one of my favorite coins, QNT, is also not up 16% anymore. It is up roughly 6%. Still good, but not as amazing as it looked a couple of hours ago. In terms of XRP news, I'd say the most interesting piece here is a update in the lawsuit, as apparently there was some confusion. Brief update on the Ripple v SEC case. And actually, before we get into this, guys, I'm having a little hard time looking into this camera because of a flashlight. But if you guys are enjoying these daily crypto videos, make sure you press that like button. I'm really preparing a lot of cool things for you guys to hopefully share. And all I'm asking is for you guys to help out by pressing that like button every single time you're watching one of these videos. It is greatly appreciated. And it's kind of strange, but I go back to bed happier if a lot of people enjoyed what I made. So even though that's not the only way you can show that you enjoyed something, it's like, But I digress. I see some confusion, therefore I tweet. On September 29th, Judge Torres overruled the SEC's objections to turning over the Hinman emails, but did not say when they must be turned over. Therefore, let's go on. The deadline becomes when an appeal of the judge's ruling is due. The court is lenient like this because once the documents are handed over, it can't be undone. So the deadline is basically 60 days, maybe longer if they move for reconsideration, which I doubt they do. If the SEC appeals the ruling, it'll take a long time to figure out, probably like months. I personally don't think the SEC will appeal because it risks adverse binding case authority by doing so. And what that refers to is that, again, they're going to have to dive a little bit deeper, and that might actually hurt the SEC more over the longer term. Bad facts is bad law, and these are bad facts. But others have different opinions on that. Keep in mind, what is in those emails is not relevant to the Section 5 violation, whether XRP is a security. It's probably only really relevant to the fair notice defense. Also, remember that only the SEC moved for summary judgment on the fair notice defense and Ripple did not. Therefore, I believe that Ripple will object to a ruling on the fair notice defense issue because discovery is not complete, and it wins that objection. So even if the SEC appeals the email order, the Section 5 violation issue will continue forward and will be fully briefed by November 15th. Again, there are two main issues at hand here. We have the fair notice defense, which is one of Ripple's main defenses, but we also have this Section 5 violation, which is basically that XRP is a security, is what's being alleged. These two things are moving alongside one another, basically, and he's basically saying that by November 15th, it'll be fully breached, this Section 5 violation issue, which is, again, whether or not XRP is a security or not, at least that department, regardless of what the SEC appeals to or whatnot, right? Even if they try to stall things again, they can't stall this natural motion. No matter what happens on the Hinman email issue, no matter the delay, the main issue will move forward to judgment. If Ripple wins on the Section 5 violation, the fair notice defense becomes moot. If Ripple loses the Section 5, it can still move for summary judgment on the fair notice defense. And there's one slight interesting piece. Have you ever seen a judge ask someone in court 6 times to turn over documents and they get away with it for this long? The SEC must be very special. And Jeremy says, not even close. This is completely 100% abnormal. He's, by the way, a very well-known lawyer that's not directly involved in the Ripple v SEC case, except for, of course, being one of the 73,000 people that's also filed for amicus curiae through John Deaton, which are basically friends of the court. If you don't know, you don't know. It doesn't matter too much. Point being, things are moving along quite nicely. By November 15th, this issue should be resolved, and regardless of what the SEC does, they can't stall this specific part any longer. Regarding that moot slash they can still file for it later. It mostly has to do with the fact that Ripple is now not really using their fair notice defense as a most important defense of sorts. They basically let the issue go on the sidelines because, well, maybe they can resolve this lawsuit without needing it. And if they eventually end up losing, they can still come back to that issue and then figure it out. Now, even though there's not one specific thing that we can touch upon that's caused a nice little pump in the market, a lot of different things are happening at once, with the main thing being the US inflation and people starting to get bullish afterwards. I think I can say with some confidence that this might have something to do with it. And read on, please. Tether abandons commercial paper in favor of US treasuries. Tether announced that it recently reduced its holdings of commercial paper to zero. In lieu of commercial paper, Tether is increasingly backed by US treasuries instead. We don't know the actual details. Again, they are being, investigated to a certain degree, right? They're giving up their information, but nobody really trusts whatever comes out of their mouths in that sense. Apparently, at first it was almost half of its reserves, but they keep saying, no, it's not Chinese commercial paper. People keep doubting that. Honestly, I don't really care. Tether is not my main holding anymore, and specifically after the whole UST debacle, I've started to be more and more careful with what stablecoins I go for. But if I had to pick a main one, I'm still with USTC because it's just that properly backed. USDC, there we go. Not USTC, that's not a good one. Even though I have a lot of money in that one still, but I don't want to talk about it. SEC's Gensler, and this is interesting, says the CFTC authority over stablecoins should be bolstered. The US Congress should give the CFTC more powers to police crypto stablecoins to reduce risks to the financial system, SEC Chair Gensler said on Friday. It obviously ties in with what I just read from Tether obviously changing their commercial paper to more US treasuries. Honestly, I can give him a little point for saying, hey, some party needs to have more control over how stablecoins are regulated. Then again, there should also be this niche for stablecoins that have, no tie to any government whatsoever, albeit that they're mostly backed by some USD, which is again backed by the government. But to be honest, if we're talking about stablecoins, the main thing you want is for them to be stable. And so if there's a watchdog out there that making sure that the USD backing, for example, is actually proper, like they claim it should be, so that we can't have a UST 2.0, I'm not really against that. The only thing which I find kind of dangerous is this. While the CFTC has anti-fraud and anti-manipulation regulatory authority over firms that issue dollar-backed stablecoins, they do not have actual plenary authority to write rules around the exchanges. And that's why I sometimes get scared, because this is very broad. What exactly are they looking for? What exactly do they want to do? And do they want to mess us up? Whenever I have the question, do they want to mess us up? The answer is usually yes. And so for that reason, I can't really say that I'm with Team Gensler on this one. I think the CFTC could have greater authorities. They currently do not have direct regulatory authorities over the underlying non-security tokens, he said, where again, Gary Gensler wants to income all these security tokens, which he thinks are 99.9% of the other cryptocurrencies out there. The vast majority of crypto, including so-called algorithmic stablecoins, are securities, so that's actually interesting. Even algorithmic stablecoins like UST then are securities, which is peculiar. And again, he says, and fall under the SEC's authority, while a handful are not, which then again can fall under the CFTC. Once more shows the grab from Gary Gensler's side saying, hey, we're trying to grab 99.9% of this space. But CFTC, you can grab 0.1, and you probably need some more rules to be able to get that done, right? Most likely with the idea that if they get some more authority, they, at the SEC, can also get some more authority slightly after that. But honestly, it's a little bit of a sticky one. It's a difficult one. Because you don't want them to have too much power, but you also don't want this space to stay as wildy west as it currently is from a main adoption perspective. As a government, I understand that you can't have this UST debacle time and time and time again, where people put all their money into something which they think is good and stable and fine, because that eventually could indeed hurt the actual US dollar or something else in the economy a little bit more severely than, for example, the Luna crash on its own. Even though the Luna crash might have caused way more harm than UST on its own, I'm talking about the fact that people thought this was stable and safe, where the backing was just not proper. It's different issues. At the end of the day, crypto is still the Wild West, and it'll most likely be this way for, I'd say, another couple of years, most likely. Rules take a very long time, and even though in the US, the White House through Biden, they're looking into it, every single party has to look into their own section, then report back to the White House, so to speak. Then they're going to look at it and evaluate, and then rules are going to be made. It's going to take a whole lot of time. For sure, the Ripple v SEC lawsuit will be the first like binding authority in the US. And I think personally that XRP will be the first properly regulated crypto in the US as well. And we'll kind of have to go from there. If Ripple does end up losing, all coins are kind of dead for another couple of months until something changes. We'll have to see about exactly how that's going to work out. But I don't think it will, because I think Ripple's going to win. XRP is going to rip off, I think, at that point. And honestly, I'm just very excited about the next couple of months. I'm buying like a madman. And even though you might not hear it in my voice, I'm very excited about today. This was a very good day, and hopefully we're going to have more like these. Just gain city, you know? There's actually another cool feature on Bybit coming out. I've actually seen it left to right. I'll share it with you guys in a couple of days. But if you don't have an account on Bybit just quite yet, you can check out the link down below. And that was it for today's video. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. See you guys again in another one.